Let's bring in Steve Forbes on the topic. You know, Steve, you ran for president. Is it possible to change Washington from the outside? Is that the way to go?
Well, I just want to hit on what Charles said, and that is in terms of health care, that was done against popular opinion. If we had outsiders making that decision, that Obamacare never would have passed. And in terms of changing Washington, you do it by democratically mobilizing public opinion, the way Ronald Reagan did in the early 1980s, got public support for his tax cuts, rebuilding the military, deregulation, got a mandate, and therefore was able to get big things done, even though the Democrats controlled one of the houses of Congress. What Obama is sounding like, President Obama is sounding like, more like a third world kind of guy. Come in, we're going to have mobs, we're going to overturn institutions and that kind of thing. And so he was wrong on 2 points. Public opinion was against his big stuff, and it sounds like he wants to do more of this pitting one group against another, grievance politics.
You know, Steve, here's the issue. U.S. history shows that plenty of American presidents, as you point out, changed D.C. from the inside, going back to FDR, on up to Kennedy, on through, you know, George H.W. Bush, President Reagan. What do you make of Sanders' point that the president is asking for another 4 years while admitting he can't change D.C.?
Well, I think what you're going to see him do now, since he's made a mistake again, is wrap himself in Ronald Reagan, who said the way you change opinion in Washington is through the white heat of public opinion. But I think what the president was talking about was very different. I think he's going to be and if he gets a second term, is going to have a lot more executive orders, more diktats from independent agencies like the EPA. In other words, government by decree, not by democracy. Though you can change Washington, you just have to mobilize public opinion and get a mandate.
All right.
What is his mandate for November? He hasn't told us that yet.
Steve, you're saying essentially if the president gets reelected and we do have gridlock in Washington, D.C., that the president will do an end run around Congress and do executive orders and working through the growing czar's bureaucracy in Washington, D.C. How bad do you think it could get?
It's going to get very bad. He's going to do everything he wants to do and say, if you don't like what I've dictated, take me to court. You've already seen him, despite all their pious denials, undermine the 1996 Welfare Act, the work requirement of the Welfare Act. They're going to do a lot of that stuff. They're going to stop fracking by decree, take me to court. Courts take years. So I think it's pretty ominous. And who knows what the Justice Department is going to do against people they don't like. They've already targeted some big givers to the Romney campaign and to the Republicans for special treatment. This is bad stuff. And so I think the American people are going to wake up to it. He's not talking about town halls and what Ronald Reagan did. Quite the opposite.
All right, on to the next topic, violence in the Middle East. The president is still blaming a movie or cartoons for it. Listen to this.
What we've seen over the last week and a half, is something that actually we've seen in the past, where there is an offensive video or cartoon directed at the Prophet Muhammad, and this is obviously something that then is used as an excuse by some to carry out inexcusable violent acts directed at Westerners or Americans.
All right, clarifying something we said earlier. While the administration says what happened in Libya was a terrorist attack, it has not said the attack had nothing to do with the movie. But, Steve, what's your reaction to this soundbite here?
Well, it's a couple of things. One is to take away blame for the fact that in Libya they had advance warnings that something was going to happen and they did not take proper precautions. And in terms of spontaneity of riots, if you have a spontaneous mob coming along, you get them shaking their fists and everything. But an organized attack, you don't, to a demonstration, Lizzie, as you know, you don't bring grenade launchers and things like that. So there was nothing, most of that stuff was not spontaneous, it was planned, and that's why they drew blood from our brave diplomats, and the government fell down on their safety, and that's what they're trying to cover up, saying, oh, it isn't our fault, it's some cartoon's fault. It's bad stuff.
It's also bad for free speech, Steve, right?
You bet.
All right. Steve Forbes, thank you so much for your time. Really appreciate it.